Welcome to this edition of the High Strangeness Factor. I am your host, Steve Ward. On the High Strangeness Factor, we will continue to explore all aspects of the paranormal with a main focus on the hidden connections that seem to link different aspects of the unexplained. Before I introduce my guest today, I want to recommend a great resource for researchers out there. The magazine, The Flying Saucer Review, which is still going, started in England in 1955. It's a phenomenal journal resource of all aspects of the paranormal, very high quality. Hard to find some of the old issues, although you can. They get a little bit pricey. But a gentleman named Ash Staunton of Triangulum Publication, in arrangement with the Gordon Crichton family. Now, Gordon Crichton was one of the original editors of Flying Saucer Review. You can get individual issues for $2.99 on Kindle all the way up to the year 2000. So highly recommended. You should check it out, and it'll be well worth your while. And now I want to introduce my guest. Charles Cox is a paranormal investigator that has been doing serious investigations since 2002. Charles is certified as a paranormal researcher, EVP researcher, and a paranormal counselor. His formal education, he has a Bachelor of Science in Psychology and a graduate degree from Wayne State University. He has done paranormal investigations at nearly 80 private residences, about a dozen cemeteries, and 7 stores and businesses. He's also done investigations at several other noted locations throughout the U.S. and also Mexico and Belize in Central America. I also have a kind of a personal connection with Belize that we'll get into later. Charles is a member of the Mutual UFO Network and has had at least one spectacular UFO sighting himself. His overall knowledge goes well beyond ghosts and UFOs, and he has done other research in many other areas of the unexplained. Charles, welcome to the High Strangeness Factor.
Yeah, hi, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's my pleasure. I noticed we're going to go all over the place here. You've got a lot of interesting stuff attached to you. But I noticed that you started in 2002, and I couldn't remember when the TV show Ghost Hunters had started, so I checked it out. They didn't start till 2004. So you were kind of on the ground floor of this before it was a really big deal out there. What was that like?
Well, it was kind of good for us at the time because there weren't a whole lot of people in the field, and we had a lot of opportunities to get cases, if you want to call it that. And quite frankly, personally, it was a learning experience at first. We talk about those certifications. Basically, I went online to try to find out, what was out there, because I felt going forward, if I was going to be doing this for any length of time, I should have some credentials, Right. But long story short, the basic thing about it, because the field was not yet full of interested individuals on a large scale, it was a lot better for us to have opportunities to experience things out there.
So did you I know there's been some courses out there and so forth. Did you do anything like that? Go through any formal courses where you could get a certification or any kind of guidance? Was there anything out there then?
Yes, I did, as a matter of fact. There were probably 2 sources. The one I chose was through the American Ghost Society. At that time, it was headed by the renowned Troy Taylor. And, and it was pretty much sponsored by Framwell College, which is a college pretty much focused on paranormal phenomenon and things of that nature, a little bit towards the occult too. But they sponsored a program on a paranormal researcher / ghost hunter certification. And it gave me a pretty good foundation. Walking into the field, you just don't know. It's not something you study in school, even if you have a science background. And there's some things to know, equipment, to how to use it, what to expect, and maybe some precedences before you get there. So I took that course through that and got pretty much like a certificate. You did ask me about like the paranormal counselor course.
Yes.
The purpose of that is really to kind of help you be more of a, maybe like when you are dealing with people who are reporting events or occurrences, to help them deal with it to be more receptive and empathetic to them, and maybe even help them a little bit be able to deal with things like afterlife matters, or things of that nature. It wasn't totally in depth. I wouldn't say it would certify me as a true counselor, but it gave you insight in that regard. I mean, someone just coming in not knowing, it gave you a little, insight and background.
Well, that's a really good idea because, I've said to people when I've given talks, we get pulled into this because of the fascination and we want to try to understand what's going on. But the thing that kind of keeps us here is that personal connection. You've talked to people that I'm sure have had strange things going on in their house and they don't know how to deal with it. So you become, to a degree, personally involved with them. I just talked to a lady that had a very strange abduction type experience, and a very, very intelligent lady, but she just was having a hard time on how to process it. Unfortunately, she got a hold of some good people that helped her out. But you mentioned Troy Taylor. Years ago, I went to one of his. He's a good choice. He's done a lot of research in the paranormal. He really knows his stuff. I went to one of his events called Weird Winter back in 2007. It was a nasty winter, in fact. But what it was is he had several of the weird books, the big hardcover books like Weird Michigan and Weird Wisconsin and so forth. He had several of those authors there, including Linda Godfrey, who wrote books about Michigan and Wisconsin. So I've seen him speak, and I think you got a good basic understanding of everything. So you said that it was kind of, in a way, it was kind of an advantage because you were able to get. How did you find your cases back then? How did they contact you?
Well, of course, I was working through a group called the Southeast Michigan Ghost Hunter Society. They had a website, and people could basically go to our website and request an investigation per se. Sometimes we got it through people who knew people like that,
Right.
And they would say, I know I have a friend that's having issues, and here's their information. And I would prefer that people come to us, but, we may follow up on some people. We pretty much still do that now. I know recently we had a case where the person was a friend of, Brad McCulker is our director, and was a friend of his daughter or something like that. And we got a case that way. But basically it was because I was with the group and they had the website available, and one could go on the website and request an investigation from us.
Oh, that's cool. Are you still involved with that group? Or are you pretty much solo these days, or?
No, I'm still involved with them very much.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing a lot more with them, and I've done a couple of things. It's slowing down now. You talked about the early days. At that time, we were in Michigan, even though there were other groups, we were probably, if I could say it, one of the top groups in the state. But now, after the advent of all the shows and everything, a lot more people are out there. So, be that as may, but we still expect to get cases, and hopefully we should be getting some more soon.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it's good that you got involved in a good, solid group that knows how to deal with people and maybe allay their fears and so forth. How did you originally get interested in all this? I mean, I tell people I've had one sort of a spectacular experience in my entire life, and one kind of interesting. But as a kid, I didn't live in a haunted house. I got interested in UFOs through, I guess, science fiction and that sort of thing. But what was your journey like in the beginning? How did you first get interested in these subjects?
Yeah, good question. I say the same thing. Actually, I will say personally, I didn't have a whole lot happen to me. A lot was happening around me. I was told a lot of stories, and like specifically my grandparents, they were apparently very sensitive to spirits, to say it like that. I was even told that they would see spirits even just walking through their house or something like that, and that was amazing because I would never see anything myself.
Right.
I do know one event where my grandmother was at our house in Detroit, and she was looking out the window, And she told me, "Do you see that woman sitting on the roof over there?" And of course, I look out, I see nothing myself, but she said, "I can see a woman sitting on the roof." But think about it, in the past, there was a woman. Now, this is the old Detroit. We was a very integrated city, but there was a woman who would climb off of the upstairs window and sunbathe on the roof. Now, I hope nothing happened to, I never heard of anything happening to the woman, but maybe she saw a residual impression of the woman there on the roof. But my grandparents specifically were known to really experience a lot of spirits. Another story came from my mother when she was very young. Apparently, she was ill or sick one night, and she was in bed, and she heard footsteps. And she looks in one direction, and she sees her deceased grandmother standing there. And she described that, I don't know if she was standing in front of a window or doorway or something. She can literally see through her, but nonetheless see her. And it scared her. She put the covers over her head. I guess maybe she fell asleep. And she said in the morning she could hear footsteps. It sounded like someone walked the distance it took to walk from there to a wardrobe or closet. And she didn't see her grandmother anymore. But basically, I got a lot of stories from various different people, and I just wondered what is going on, what is really going on. So I have always been studying books. I got the back then Reader's Digest had a series,
Oh yeah.
Ancient Americas, and they had a several volume series on paranormal phenomenon from A to Z, not only ghosts and spirits, but telekinesis, those type of things and what have you.
And just to interrupt you for a second, those
Sure.
were the nicely produced, sometimes black background. They were hardcover. They were kind of thin, and they had a lot of illustrations in them, right? And they would come in sets.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I think I got the entire set. I kind of dodged the one that dealt with the Wiccans/witches, but I think I got the complete set of those, and that was helpful too, and give me a little background. But it's all about spurring interest. It's things like that that spurred my interest, wanting to go out and to find out what's going on, what is going on.
And about how old were you when that was happening?
Oh, well, the earliest time we were talking about, probably not more than around 10 years old when the first,
Okay.
those, of course, subsequently getting the books, I was an adult by then, of course, but the stories and things, I was very young at that time, but
I think most of us got the bug in some area of this early on. Whether we did much with it besides read books or whatever. But so let's see. So you started in 2002, and one thing I wanted to mention. We do have a little bit of a connection. You went. What years did you go to Wayne State to get your degree, roughly?
well, I first started at Wayne just after I graduated from high school. I'm up for high school in 1971. I think I started attending there in the fall of 71. Back then they had the old quarter system. They eventually went to a semester system, but there was a quarter system. So
Right.
I was there. I got through the first quarter. I was in the middle of the second quarter, and I realized my parents weren't able to really fund my education. So I said, well, I need a way to fund this. So my decision was to go into the military. And in early 72, I joined the Army. And I spent 6 years, 9 months, 29 days in the military.
I know.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was in the military too. I know what that's like, counting down
yeah,
the days.
right. And essentially, after my time in the military, even though I got an associate's degree while I was in service, when I got out of service, I just continued and finished with my bachelor's there at Wayne, and ultimately entered into the graduate program a little bit later. So we're talking about, I got out of the military in 79, 78, 79, went back to Wayne in probably 80s, early 80s, and got my master's in 88 out of Wayne.
And you got a degree in psychology, is that right?
Yeah, my undergraduate degree is in psychology, Bachelor of Science, yes.
Okay.
Right.
And have you been able to, has that been helpful for you in investigations and dealing with people and so forth? The
Well,
background?
yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but
No, that's fine.
in a way, psychology, believe it or not, people, usually when I was telling people I'm studying psychology, I always get the dissertation on Freud, They talk about Freud's theory, and quite frankly, psychology is much more than Sigmund Freud. That's only a part of,
Absolutely.
yeah. And psychology teaches you research and methodology, especially when you're interacting with things like people, not things. Like certain methods, control group maybe methods, or what we call non-intrusive methods, or whatever. Also, we don't do a lot of number crunching with data, anything in the ghost hunting side, but it's available to me if I wanted to go there. But it gives you a better attitude, maybe if you want to call it scientific method. I'm very cautious about throwing science into this, but having said that, it's just that it does give you a little more insight into research methodology, what really the purpose is and what you're trying to do, when you research.
You may be one of the few people that has been able to use his degree for something that he's actually doing afterwards. A lot of people get a degree and they're doing something. You say, "What's your degree in?" And you find out it's like it's got nothing to do with what they're doing. So that's really interesting that you were able to apply that. Well, also, you and I actually we attended Wayne State University at the same time, at least for a while. I went there from 70 to 73. I got full time and part time. And I remember the old quarter system and how inexpensive it was back in those days.
Wow.
But it was, $175 a quarter or something like that. It was just astounding. But anyway, I got my associate's degree through the military as well, although I went in sometime after you did. So I just thought that was interesting. We have that parallel.
Yeah.
We kind of come from the same old neighborhood, sort of, within a certain area, which is pretty cool. I think, let's see, what, boy, we've got a lot we can talk about here. What are some of the things that maybe stand out for you in some of your ghost investigation cases? Maybe some of the things that, I'm sure you must have spent a lot of hours hearing and seeing nothing and experiencing nothing. But I imagine every once in a while you hit pay dirt. What was that like?
It was exciting. I had to be honest with you. Some people really, and I don't want to beat up on any group of people. Everybody's entitled to their opinions, beliefs, or whatever. But it shows you how real this stuff is, And even though to this day, I cannot sit here and say I know exactly what it is and what's going on, I do know that these anomalies are real. And they don't have to necessarily, you think, well, people are there because someone has to experience them, and whether or not the people are, in fact, I use the term agent to the events are happening and will continue to happen. If you want to know something more specific, for us as a group, Southeast Michigan, one thing we always put out there is our experience at the Holly Hotel, if I can say that. I'm pretty sure I can. They do.
Oh yeah, and listen, my wife has been there. I think she went to a seance thing there once with some friends one time. Mm-hmm. But I understand that is supposed to be a haunted location. That, for people that don't know, I guess we say that's in the general vicinity of Flint, Michigan. Maybe that's a little bit further from there. But anyway, it's sort of south central Michigan, maybe mid Michigan, thereabouts. Yeah. Okay, just to give people a perspective. But go ahead.
Yeah, between Detroit and Flint. But they do. They used to advertise on their website the fact that they are a haunted location. So it's not like they don't want anybody to know it. But bottom line is that probably not long after I joined Southeast Michigan, that was one of our investigations. We went there, and I was kind of just personally, I had a regular video camera. Now, the reason why I say regular because we use a lot of at that time we used a lot of the old night shot type cameras, which shoot in the infrared range, and basically you could take pictures in low light or no light conditions because it would have the IR illuminator and the camera would pick up in the dark. But I just had a regular camera this time, and I was pretty much going around documenting our activities, the location, and things of that, really before we did any investigating. But in the upstairs area where there's a bar up there, Brad was talking about a new piece of equipment. He had just got a new tri-field meter. And believe it or not, you hear tri-field meters across the board. We use them. Your fathers just use them. So, it's a very common tool. and he was talking about and demonstrating it to a newspaper reporter, believe it or not. We had someone from the Oakland Press there
Okay.
covering us. So I'm taking a video of him doing that, and in the meantime, while he's doing that, one of the wait staff, or one of the staff, brings a chair in, and as he brings the chair in, this apparition, well, I have to call it that, or this figure of a woman appears out of the corner, kind of comes out of the corner for a moment, and it looks for a while, and Brad likes to describe it this way, as if she realized he has a camera, I'm on camera, and she ducks back in around the corner. Now, my first reaction was, who is that? Who's wearing? It looked like she was wearing some type of a Michael Jackson style jacket.
And did she look solid at that time, or was she translucent at all?
Well, I have to be honest with you. In the moment, I don't think I remember seeing her. It was only when I played the tape back. It was a tape type.
Okay.
I saw her. But what I later realized, what I was seeing was a pretty older style dress, which I had to reverse investigate this. At the time, Troy Teller emphasized what you should do is do some history research of your location to see, is there a reason why this place is haunted? Places are just not haunted, even though they can be. I mean, we have made a certain assumptions that ghosts can go anywhere they want to go. It doesn't have to be a history. But long story short, I did a reverse checking of this. That's where I discovered the Holly Hotel does talk about its ghost on the website. She is described on the website, and we believe it was the spirit of Nora Kane, I think her name was. And what I was seeing, her outfit, I later compared it to, I had a picture of Harriet Tubman at work. Harriet Tubman,
Yes.
Back in Civil War times, I think, well, actually 1890s, 1880s. And Harriet Tubman's wearing a similar dress as to this figure I saw. Now, you were asking about completeness. If you look at, I have this on video, so I do have this, but if you look at the video, it does look like her arms aren't complete or what have you. But what was interesting about reviewing the video, I can see her legs moving underneath her skirt,
Yeah.
And it's, yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Continue.
It was pretty incredible. It took me a while to accept that I had actually captured anything paranormal. When I first saw it, like I said, I thought, who was that? And I've even shown it to one of the owners there at the Holly Hotel. She looked at it and said, I don't know who that is. This doesn't look like any of my staff. I don't know who that is. But funny thing about it, if I can expand upon this,
Sure.
I went to a conference out in the Southwest with the old Dave Esther when he was alive with the International Ghost Hunters. And
Wait a minute. Dave, Esther, and Sharon Gill?
That's correct, yeah.
Now, Dave, I didn't know he had passed. I used to hear him and Sharon on the radio all the time. And they were a great couple. They would play their EVPs. They were, they were full of good humor and fascinated by. I'm really sorry to hear that he passed. But so you knew Dave Esther and you went out there with him.
Oh, yeah, yes, I knew him very well, in fact. And it is a great loss to the field, but we will carry on his tradition as much as possible. But bottom line is, I was at one of his conferences, and he had a young woman there who was a hypnotist. I think she did past life regression. And I had still photos of that video of that apparition. Now, I would never tell. At that time, I wasn't sure that the Holly Hotel was comfortable with people spreading the word that they were haunted, So I would never tell anybody what those pictures were of. But needless to say, I showed her one of the pictures. And she said, oh, that's Anna. She's a ghost. I said, what? I said, how do you know that? I asked her, have you ever been to Michigan? She said, no, I've never been to Michigan. And obviously, if she's never been to Michigan, she's never been to the Holly Hotel. But I did a reverse check of, well, this is when I actually accessed the website. And in the narrative, they refer to her as Anna. Even though her name is Nora Kane, they refer to her as Anna. And I have been told that photographs, people can look at a photograph, and if there's something paranormal, whatever, they will be able to pick that up. you know.
Well, I guess that goes under the heading of psychometry. Those people that can touch an object and get the vibration, get the sort of the realm of consciousness that was attached to that. So I guess so. Apparently, this lady was a bit psychic that
I would
saw this photograph.
would think so,
It,
yes.
it would be quite a coincidence for her to come up with the exact name if she wasn't. You know.
Yeah. And I was surprised, like I said, I asked her, ever been to Michigan and whatever. So I can only take a word for it, but that was an interesting experience. That really, opened my eyes about as to what I'm dealing with here. But there have been other circumstances, like I was reviewing some video. Unfortunately, we are on radio, not video. We don't have ability to see these things. And I have a clip I call Twins. And back in the day, it was a big debate of what they call orbs. Now, I don't know where we are today. I haven't had too many arguments about it, but even though I realize orbs are pretty much fundamental, but the point is that in the video, I call it twins because it involves two orbs. Now, you're watching the video and you see one orb. Now, in the video, it just looks like a small point of light, and it's traveling down a hallway that has kind of like a doorway in the middle of it. And as it travels down the hallway, it kind of just goes around the doorway without stopping and keeps going. And shortly after it goes by, another orb comes behind it. The thing about the other orb, it gets to that same point, stops dead, does a sidestep, and continues. Now, I was saying about the great orb debate. We had a fellow one time tell us, you should completely discount orbs. They're nothing more than dust or
Right.
environmental, garbage. But seeing that video, I had to ask the question, when's the last time you seen a piece of dust stop dead, sidestep, and keep going?
Exactly. That's I see. I agree. I think that a lot of when the orb thing first hit, people were sending photographs to Coast AM with Art Bell, and they'd post the photographs, and it became apparent before too long that a lot of these were just dust in the air, and but I have seen some photographs. I think there is a percentage, and I would not know how to break it down. We shouldn't completely disregard all the orb pictures because some of them are legitimate. And like you say, how does a piece of dust all of a sudden make a right angle turn like that? I do know that my wife and I went to the Crescent Hotel in Eureka Springs a few years ago, and that's what's one of the ones featured on the Ghost Hunters some years ago. And in the basement was where I think they got what they thought was an image of an apparition on the infrared. But anyway, we took the tour and we went through there and we got down to the basement and all these kids are taking pictures and so forth. And it was digital camera and you knew right away that the stuff they were getting were just dust particles. But they were getting all excited. They all thought they had ghosts following them and so forth. So it can go to one extreme to another. But yeah, that's really interesting. Did you do any investigations with Dave Esther while you were out there?
Well,
Or was it mainly a conference?
no. I actually went out in the field. One of our big events was we went out to the old Donner area where the Donner Party was. It was like
Oh, that's cool.
a camp area, and I got some interesting. Well, the one EVP I really got, and EVP by the way is electronic voice phenomenon. It's just your recording. If you get a recording on whatever a medium, like for example, like a cassette recorder, or like if you're using no cassettes or a digital recorder. But that was my big forte to do that. Of course, that's what he always emphasized. You did more so over photography, that you use EVP, and he pretty much pioneered the use of digital recorders. But long story short, we were at that location, and most of the group had went back to the bus, and I was still out there kind of, milling around, and I had my recorder going, so I started to head back. And on the way back, and of course, you don't always share these things in the moment, so people are probably aware of that, whoever's in, if you're really into the field. But on the way back, I played back the recording, and you can hear this kind of a combination of a sneeze or a cough. And it's one of those good, juicy, dead of winter Michigan type call.
That's a good description.
Yeah. And the problem with it, I mean, yes, I have allergies and everything like that, but I don't recall sneezing, coughing, or anything like that. But like if you're out there that's in the Sahara Nevada area, which is somewhat, I guess it has somewhat arid. So I didn't think I was having any issue with my allergy. But like I said, that sounded like one of those good, in the dead of winter type, calls on my recorder. So that was kind of eye-opening. But you were talking about that was one of the time I got a chance to, do some investigating with Dave. Of course, we walked around when we were in Albuquerque. If anybody's familiar with Albuquerque, they have what's called Old Town area.
Okay.
And I tried to take some pictures and things. Of course, you get the fleeing or orb or whatever, and however you want to identify them. But I've got nothing else significant out of there, just to let you know. But those were my experiences with him, actually side by side. In fact, the dog they had, I'm blanking on the name.
Oh yes, they used to.
Yeah.
Oh, I should know that.
It-
I wish people, if there's they did some radio shows you can probably find online. Uh, they were so much fun, and Dave was such a great guy, and so was Sharon, a great lady. And they would always talk about their dog, and they would come through with, oh, he had an EVP. Now a lot of them are intelligible. You don't really know what it is, but he was out in I don't know, Nevada or something. Do you remember the one where he was near a mine shaft, an old mine shaft, and there was he played this really clear Class A EVP that went something like deep, deep shaft. I mean, it was just as clear. Sounded like an old time miner
yeah.
talking about the deep shaft, like, be careful, stay away. But very cool.
Yeah. And I just remember a dog. It was Boo Boo. That was the name of the dog.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Boo Boo was out there too with us one time. The Yorkie. They had was it Yorkie? I guess. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I wanted to mention that. I mean, you talk about investigation. I almost forgot the ghost cruise we were on.
Yeah, tell us.
We took a cruise. That was back in 2003. On this was a one-ship cruise line. It wasn't a Carnival. It wasn't a Norwegian. It was a one-ship cruise line. And the ship that we were on was purported to be haunted. It was older. It had once been used in Greece or something like that, and they converted it into a cruise ship. But the stories of that, I got more stories than I really got evidence. But even though I did get a significant orb out of that, and that's an interesting story if I may take the time to tell that. We're in the area, and I'm with some of the other, I'll put this to disciples. And of course, back then, the orb debate was still on. And a person was telling me I was in this area, and he said, I should say, you're not going to get anything here. You got the fans blowing. All you're going to get is dust. And I said, oh, well and good. I said, I went ahead and did my thing anyway and took a picture. And I probably got one of the most brightest, densest orbs I've ever got, and out of that area. I said, okay, that can't be dust because this is just too bright and too large. But in addition, just to throw another investigation experience with Dave, that was one being on that ship, the Regal Empress, it was called.
That must have been fun. I'm more on the research side for all aspects of the paranormal. You're way ahead of me on the actual, boots on the ground type of research. By the way, we just as a little segue here, and I don't want to forget, if people want to get a hold of you, can they get a hold of you through your ghost group, or what would be the way if they want you to investigate something or just want to contact you? How would they do that?
Well, if they want an investigation, I always refer them to the Ghost Group. It'll be Southeast Michigan. I think it's semghs.org, O-R-G, or Facebook, quite frankly, too.
Right.
We're on Facebook.
Okay, but certainly if they Google that, they'll find it, and they could get a hold of you personally if they wanted to. And you're also on Facebook as Charles Cox.
That's correct. Yes, I'm on Facebook too. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I wanted to again, listen. By the way, Charles, we're going to have to. We've got plenty of time left, but we're going to have you on again because I know you've got a lot more to tell. But I want to bring up Belize in Central America. How was it you got into Belize, and what brought you there, and what did you investigate there?
Actually, that was one of the ports of call on that ghost cruise.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, and yeah, Belize was interesting. Got a chance to see a lot of the city, and we went to some of the older. I remember going to an old church there, what have you. But the big event was going to the Alton Ha Mayan ruin site, which I did visit again later on by myself back in 2011, but this was 2003. And basically there, I was trying to get EVP, but even though I got a interesting photo out of that, and like I said, I regret this is radio because, you know, they say one picture is worth 10,000 words, but I did get an interesting photo out of that area of something which is hard, I can't describe. Now, we haven't got there yet. We haven't got into the UAP UFO side yet, but one of the things I'm realizing, you can call it ghosts, paranormal, but you never know if it falls into the UAP UFO side either. So
that's right. That's one of the themes in the high strangeness factor is sometimes the lines between these things are very tenuous, and it's very hard to tell what is what. But so go ahead with your story.
Yeah, basically, just kind of trying to get EVP there at Alton and getting that one photo. Other than that, I can't say anything was too significant. Of course, the only event that Dr. Dave, that's what I refer to him as Dr. Dave, you know. He would tell about his story of him falling into the grave, you know, and everything. He was trying to get EVP too, and he wasn't paying attention. And some of the graves, and we went to a cemetery, by the way, and some of the graves had actually looked like they collapsed. They were sinking in the ground, and I don't know if it's a high water table or they were just that old, and apparently he wasn't paying attention. He fell into one. But
oh man, that's a place you don't want to fall into.
No, not at all. But other than that, I can't really say anything else that happened out of that. But that's basically when you talk about Belize, my experience, you know, going to that site.
Well, I went there a friend of mine. His uncle was the Roman Catholic bishop for Belize. This was spring of '74, and it had still been British Honduras very shortly before that. It had just become Belize. And I also got to Alton Ha, although in those days I wasn't thinking anything in terms of ghost investigation, and I wouldn't have known an EVP from STP. So, but one thing that was kind of cool, and it's too bad you couldn't have gotten here. We went all over the country with this guy's uncle, and we got over to the west side of Belize, and we got over into Guatemala, and we went to Tikal, the spectacular Mayan ruins there, and that was pretty amazing. And you even get to see some of the carvings that Eric von Daniken was pointing at as a possible ancient astronaut, you know, so that was pretty cool. Right. And if people don't know what Tikal looks like, if you go back to the original Star Wars film, the first Star Wars, and the scene where they go to the Rebel base, they use those pyramids there at Tikal as the exteriors for the Rebel base. Wow. So that's my big Belize story.
Wow, yeah. You know, I was actually supposed to go to Guatemala, but as part of another cruise, but we had a medical emergency and we had to go back to American Port I don't think the person made it. They had to go back to American Port.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, to process the body, I guess. But long story short, I missed that opportunity to go to Guatemala. Even though I have been to the Yucatan, I got a chance to go to Tulum, another site. But I didn't go there for the purpose of any paranormal investigating. I just went there to see it, you know.
Yeah, you mentioned Mexico. Did you get to Mexico on this tour as well?
I think I'm trying to remember when that happened. I think we did have one port of call in Mexico.
Oh, okay.
I think I just went to Cozumel and went on to the museum that time. I can't associate anything like getting to the ruins in Mexico. And I'm talking about Mexico versus Belize on that tour, but I did get it on another tour. I did go around to Tulum at least, you know.
What are some of your other interesting cases? Have you ever encountered anything that was extremely negative? I won't say demonic because I don't know that I believe in the demonic aspect or not. I'm on the fence about that. But did you ever run into anything in all your investigations that was kind of nasty?
Yeah. Well, I will have to say, in all the investigations I've done, I've never ran anything I would call demonic per se. And we've had stories told to us by the witnesses, or what you want to call them clients and stuff. They felt something was demonic, but I'm not sure if that's that common. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but for me, I haven't had anything I would label that. I've had some things that made me feel uncomfortable and were not exactly inviting, like one experience I had at the old Wayne Theater, which no longer exists. It was on Michigan Avenue there in Wayne, where
Okay.
I went down. We were there doing an investigation, and I went down by myself down.
By the way, just a second, for Wayne is what would we call it, a southwest suburb of Detroit? Just so people can get an idea where it is.
Yeah,
Where you
it's
get
on.
to say,
Yeah,
okay,
I
yeah, go
think
ahead.
go through Redford, Livonia, Redford, and then
So
Wayne.
it's west side anyway.
West Side, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And like I said, this particular theater is no longer there. They tore it down. They were trying to renovate it, but that was a costly venture. And the guy was doing, he did everything he could. There was no donations coming in. There was a lot of work to be done. But getting to the point, we were doing an investigation there, and I personally went down an area that was basically underneath the stage. But when I got down there, felt like I was met with like this cold wall. You know, it's almost as if it was a cold brick wall, even though there was nothing there. You know, and I said, well, I don't think I want to stay here any longer. This is not comfortable. You got to go with your gut.
Oh yeah.
You don't do Zach to try to provoke or provocate anything. So I just left. But I was working with another group, the old Michigan Ghost Watchers. They're still around in a different form, but this was one that's a woman named Cindy was running. But I told her about it, and she said, "Well, there was a story where there was a black caretaker or something here at the museum, and there was some white guy who worked here too who didn't particularly like black people, and I
Oh
guess
great.
gave him a hard time, and he didn't like the guy coming around his area or something like that. He was very rude or bad or to the person or whatever, um, and you may have confronted his spirit, or whatever. I guess the
Well,
guy.
that's possible. I mean, they say that whatever it is, the essence or soul or residue, uh, holds on to the feelings and emotions, the prejudices, the whatever the hate, the joy, they hold on to it, and maybe that's what you confronted. And if I was in your shoes, I would have gotten the hell out of there too, I think.
Yeah, don't push it. Don't ever push it. I would say that to anyone. You see, I'm not here to criticize anyone and their methods. Everyone's entitled to their own way of doing things, but you sometimes see these guys do this. They do this confrontation and provocation, and really, you might get what you asked for. And it may not be what you want,
Exactly. Some friends of mine, I'm going to be interviewing them pretty soon. They wrote an excellent book called Watch Out for the Hallway, Joey and Tanya Medea. And they did a 2-year investigation into a haunted library in North Carolina. And their whole approach, I mean, they're very spiritual. That the last thing they would do is to go into a place to try to provoke something. I mean, they have they hold a certain state of consciousness and expectation when they go in and try to, do a very positive investigation. So I think you guys are on the same wavelength there.
Oh yeah, I actually I had opportunity to do a reinvestigation of area, and in that area, I experienced, in fact, I actually have an EVP here. I don't know if it's really the best. It's kind of hard to hear from that.
We can try it if and people may not be able to hear it, but heck, let her rip.
Let me see here. Um, I will admit, I got the impression that someone there didn't excuse me, I was talking away from the mic there. I got the impression that someone there didn't particularly like me.
And heck, Charles, you're a heck of a likable guy. I'm going to go on record as that.
Okay, so let me see if we can play this.
I'm Charles. You guys right back upstairs? I'm taking photographs. If this is okay. 5.
Can you hear that gaspy voice?
A little bit. I don't think it came through real well, but probably don't have the right equipment for it. But
Yeah.
we'll leave it in there anyway and let people decide for themselves. That's pretty interesting. Before we're starting, we've got some time left, but there's some things I want to make sure we hit before we go.
Sure.
What I wanted to know is, I should tell people, Charles and I attend the Michigan MUFON meetings in Flint, Michigan. Bill Konkoleski is the director there. He's been at it for, about 15 years, a great guy. It's a really excellent group. Charles has spoken there. I have. It's a great place to talk to people, and Charles and I have had some great conversations there. What you were primarily interested in ghosts. Was there a point in time where you kind of branched off a little bit into other areas of the paranormal?
Well, if you want to say it, how I eventually got involved with MUFON, really, it happened a while ago because David Twitchell, the guy who does does the recording there.
Right. He's got his own radio show called We Are Not Alone.
We Are Not Alone, exactly. He gave a presentation in Westland, Michigan, which is not far from Wayne, Michigan, and needless to say, he gave a presentation on orbs, believe it or not, but not from a paranormal point of view, but from the UAP UFO point of view.
Right.
And I had seen a video of this guy describing his contact with what he called, and I'm going to say it like this, an extraterrestrial being. When he showed the picture of it, it looked like one of our typical spirit orbs, like we get, if we most likely like outside. But having said that, I began to realize that there's certain things that the UAP UFO community talks about that sound a whole lot like stuff we get in the paranormal / ghost hunting realm.
Right. And tell people what you mean by UAP.
UAP is the unidentified aerial phenomenon. It's
right, which is more. It's more of a blanket. Right, UFO is a little more specific, but UAP is probably what we should be using. It covers more phenomena. But go ahead.
Yeah, like in terminology has been evolving. Originally, we called everything was a flying saucer. Then it became UFO. Now I think we're transitioning into UAP. But my experience, it was a UAP. I would say more than a UFO, because when you say UFO, people are expecting, oh, you saw a saucer-like craft. No, I didn't see a saucer-like craft. I saw a very light-like anomaly in the sky. But I'm getting into one other area too, by specific experience. But basically, I realized there was a lot of commonality between paranormal phenomenon and UAP UFO phenomenon.
Tell us about your. You had a pretty spectacular UFO sighting, as I recall, or UAP sighting.
Well, yes, and recently, the end of last year, I would like to sit out on my front porch sometime, and when I was sitting out there, and although I ultimately got like cataract surgery, but I would sit out there and see dark spots appear and disappear, and I wasn't absolutely sure what was going on. Steve, I just want to check, make sure you're still with me.
Oh yeah, I'm here. I can hear you. Okay.
Something my computer did something. I just double checking, but
yes. Technology.
Right. Anyhow, I actually thought I saw something appear in the sky. This was the least one I can confirm, but I reported it, and Sue took it over. I don't know if you remember Sue Gerbering, I think her name was.
Yes.
One of the investigators. She's now working with MUFON National. But long story short, I reported it, and she took up the case, and I was having some interaction with her. So knowing, she told me, well, she wanted to actually come out here and set up a camera herself. But after my interaction with her, I would just keep a camera nearby. But one day I was sitting on my porch, and a helicopter flies over. Now, helicopters fly, we've talked about this, you and I. Helicopters do fly over a pretty regular basis, because where I'm at is the intersection of M39 Southfield Freeway and I-96 Jeffries Freeway.
And for people that don't know, that's a very heavily congested area and very busy traffic-wise.
Right. So helicopters, normally state police, and occasionally you get City of Detroit type helicopters. And I heard that the Bureau, the FBI, has a helicopter too. But long story short, this helicopter flew over, and I thought it was strange because it was like a matte gray, no markings. In fact, I can't remember if it even had navigation lights on it. But it flies over real slowly and very low. So having a little background in UFO, UAP sightings where people have to associate helicopters with them, I have my camera nearby, so I run in the house and get my camera, and I have it on the ready. in case the helicopter came back. Wasn't necessarily looking for a UAP, but at least I captured the helicopter. So if I was to tell somebody about it, I could say, well, this is the picture of it. But needless to say, I did see a helicopter later, but it was too far south for me to get. But I sat there for a while, and then I heard a helicopter was flying north over the freeway. It would be behind my house. So I get up and I see the helicopter flying over. By then, it looked like a typical, freeway helicopter, either Detroit police or state police. So I was taking a picture of it, and while I was taking a picture, this somewhat bright red object just kind of comes into the picture. Just like somebody turned the switch on, and it disappears. And I'm looking at it. I said, well, got to get a picture of it. Get a picture of it. And I was thinking, so I put it in movie mode? No, get the shot. I was telling myself. So I got a picture of it. It's a little bit blurry because it was far enough away that the motion of the camera kind of blurred it a little bit. But it stayed there for a moment right next to the helicopter, and then it kind of just blinked out again. And the helicopter goes on its way. So I said, well, let me stand by here for a moment. And sure enough, it reappeared again. And I got a little bit better picture of it, but more stable picture of it. And all it is a red light, like a light object. And while I'm looking at it, it's there in the sky, in the northern sky, north of my house, and it moves over from left to right slightly. It was the most eerie movement of an object in the sky I've ever seen. It's nothing like a plane. It's like someone taking a slide switch and sliding it over. And
was it very quickly? I mean, you would rule out something like a drone?
Yeah, I don't think someone could control a drone quite like that.
Okay.
And it had it was bright and solid enough to be more than just one of the drones. The typical drones, I would say, not anything like a military drone, but like a commercial drone. But anyway, it did slide over a little bit. I got the impression it was sliding over to get a better look at me. Now, where that came from, and I've heard sometimes people can get these impressions from UAPs, but that's the impression I got. And it stayed there for a moment. We're not talking not quite a minute, but it stayed there for a while, and then it just blinked out again, like just turned off again. And
well, I have to tell you, a friend of mine in Tennessee was outside one night, and he looks up and he sees these two objects, these two strange lights, and he got the mental impression it was like he sees us, and then they winked out. So that's that kind of thing. There sometimes does seem to be that, for lack of a better word, telepathic connection somehow.
Right. And it wasn't really, I wasn't afraid or scared or anything. I didn't know how to feel, actually. But I did think this. I said, this looks a lot like Dr. Stephen Greer's, CE5 type objects. They're not craft. They're just lights or like some sorts like energy.
And the CE5, which I don't understand a lot of, but they go through certain like mental protocols and have a certain expectation. And we had a lady named Kim give a presentation at Michigan MUFON about this kind of thing. So that's interesting. And also, I might mention quickly, Ted Phillips, who was a colleague of Dr. J. Allen Hynek. Of course, Hynek was part of Project Blue Book, and we've got the TV show now. Ted Phillips has said that over the years, the appearance of UFOs have changed somewhat. They used to be a lot of the hard, sort of silver disc-shaped object, and now a lot of them are more of the sort of orb-type phenomena. And these are not dust particles. These are big, large, bright lights that sometimes separate and come back together. So that does seem to be changing somewhat.
Yeah, and you said that. I get what they call insights, and you can call them what they want to. Daydreams or brain wanderings or whatever. I get the impression they're involving like we have evolved in the sense that their technology is improving and they're getting better and different as time goes on, just like we would do in a way, I guess.
Or maybe, their investigation, their search techniques are becoming more advanced or less intrusive or whatever. It's hard to say. It's quite a mystery.
And that's always speculation. So, I just don't have the knowledge, but I can say I get insights or thoughts about that. But, yeah.
Well, that's fun, and that's one of the things I enjoy most about Michigan MUFON, and that's I think we're going to have to change our location. The restaurant we've been using closed down, but if you're in the South Central Michigan, Southeast Michigan area, anywhere around there, check out Michigan MUFON. Bill Konkoleski, he runs a great group. And Charles, one of the most fun things I have to do there is when people are sitting around having the brunch and waiting for the speaker, when people get to talk to each other and talk about their different experiences. And you and I have talked during times like that, and that's a lot of fun.
Right, right. And that should be part of it. We should share our experiences. Because there's, like I told you about being a counselor, we get people when we go on our investigation. First of all, the number one thing is that if they have children, they're concerned about whether or not their children are in danger.
Absolutely.
Believe it or not. And then the next thing they're concerned about, am I crazy or whatever? And usually I always, comfort people by letting them know, first of all, what you experience is not unique to you. It's happened to a lot of folks,
Right, and I've done the same thing in my few investigations with people that have had abduction experiences. Well, we're getting close. Boy, this hour went fast, Charles. Definitely, I hope you'll come back sometime because I know you've got a lot more to say.
Sure, I thank you, and I do appreciate this opportunity. Yes.
Well, sit tight. I'm going to do a closeout in a minute, but tell us again about the organization, Southeast Michigan Ghost Group.
Yeah, well, Southeast Michigan Ghost Hunter Society is probably one of the oldest, not the oldest, but one of the oldest. I think they really formulated it about 1996. Actually, that's the same time that Dr. Dave started the International Ghost Hunters Group, and I think even Troy Teller's American Ghost Society started around the same time. It might be interesting to do a historical review to find out what was going on back then, how all these groups started. But having said that, the group itself has done probably many more investigations I have personally, because I only joined it in 2002. I should say Brad McCulka is the director, and he's been sponsored in he's done the A Haunting, the series. They have the episode The Attic.
Oh, yes, on cable.
Yeah, he's featured there. He's written, I think now he's third, maybe. He's going on maybe his fourth book. He's written these 3 books: I Am Ghost Hunter, Spook House, and then one about ghost hunting in Michigan, something to that effect. I was going to get that title so I would have it. But we're known. I've been on television, news, shows. They've been there. We did a DVD with a guy haunting on Hamilton Street, and it has to do with some locations in Saginaw.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But basically, like I said, we're one of the oldest groups. Go to the site, semghs.org, or Facebook to contact us if you're interested in an investigation, or if you can also contact me through that. I'll be checking in once in a while.
Okay.
I'm not that much of a Facebooker, but I check in once in a while.
Well, that's cool. And,
Sure.
and I think it's I really appreciate the fact that you were in on the ground floor of all this. It wasn't like you started, and it's fine for people that were inspired by watching these reality shows, but you were in on just below the ground floor before all this happened.
Right.
And that's very cool. So I want to thank my guest again, Charles Cox. I also need to thank Irene Allen Block and Mark Johnson. They are our fearless leaders here at Paranormal UK Radio. Andy Mercer is my tireless producer, and he's also my part-time co-host. The music was by Brian Zeller. And I am Steve Ward, your humble host on the highest strangeness factor, a displaced Yank here on Paranormal UK Radio. Thanks for listening. I will see you all in a fortnight. Take care.